was sitting talking to my lovely wife the other day about compassion, and she suggested that we could make a video about the topic of compassion. I thought, well, we've got to have some sort of a story to add to it, so she suggested we talk about PiiPii. PiiPii was our pet pigeon that we actually rescued. She was in a nest on our roof. We had to get some work done. I'd put the drone up to have a look. I could see the nest there. It didn't look like there was any eggs or signs of life in it. So the builder went up to do the work, and he came down with this nest with 2 chicks in it. One of them had died already. The other one was PiiPii. So we had compassion for her and decided to care for her and, well, to learn how to care for her and to raise her. We'd never done this before. It wasn't too difficult a decision to make. She was a helpless, tiny little pigeon chick. So to have compassion, to want to help her, to learn how to help her, we were compelled. It was just a natural thing to do. And certainly in a situation like this, being compassionate wasn't challenging, it wasn't difficult at all. Sometimes being compassionate is actually quite a lot more challenging, and it's something that, maybe we have to learn how to do it. But with PiiPii, it wasn't too challenging to learn. It was a matter of course, first learning how to care for her and essentially learning how to feed her, because we'd left her in the nest during the day in the shade. We put it out close to where the pigeons would come, but her mum and dad, they were flying around, but they just weren't coming close to her. So we decided, okay, she's not going to do well if we just leave her out all night. So we brought her inside. Pazara had researched what to feed her and how to feed her, just some techniques, and she responded readily. Initially a little bit hesitant, but once she tasted the food, there was no stopping her. And so we made her a safe little space that was comfortable, just with some cloths and some bunched up in a corner to give her some comfort and some closeness. And we continued to feed her and to be with her and chat to her during the day occasionally and things like this. And she grew, and she also grew to be quite comfortable being with us. And this grew into quite an interesting relationship as she grew and grew stronger and developed feathers. She connected with us. She built relationship and was attached to us in a way that initially we just had not realized until she began learning to fly. And this was really quite something. It was quite amazing. She got better, she got more confident, but she would always come back to us, to be with whoever was with her at the time and to be close to us. And this, at the beginning, it was usually Pansar. It was usually her that was really feeding her a lot and being with her a lot. But it was, as I said, it was necessary because we didn't want her to die. And so being compassionate is very much about not just doing, but first being aware. And oftentimes this just means listening to someone as to what their needs are, and then doing what we can to help provide for these needs and help to alleviate the suffering that is happening with the person or the animal that we're looking after or that we're feeling compassion for. And this is the difference between empathy and compassion. Empathy, we have concern, we have feeling, we have an attachment, if you like, but it doesn't involve any action. And this is where compassion comes in. It is more than just what has become a common cliched catchphrase of thoughts and prayers. Compassion is actually doing something practical to help whoever is in a position of suffering. And so this, it takes some thought, it takes some heart, and it takes some doing, some action. And the best way to do this is to start with ourselves, to start in our own minds, to forgive ourselves and to really be aware of our weaknesses and our failures and get over those. Instead of being self-critical, have a little compassion and think about the way we're thinking and the way we're considering what we're saying and what we're doing towards others around us. And if we can learn to do this, starting with our own minds, then we can actually have compassion towards others as well. So I know it's been a challenge for me to overcome negative and destructive thinking about myself and about others. But as I started to understand what was happening and make steps to change the way I was thinking and to change from destructive thought patterns to constructive thought patterns, this has helped me to not only have more constructive thinking about myself, so compassion for myself, but also positive thinking and compassion towards others. And as we start to do this, even in small ways, it'll help us to build to a more compassionate personality and have compassionate character traits. In time, eventually, will become so natural. It's like anything we want to learn. The more we practice it, the better we get. And as PiiPii grew, as she learned to fly, we realized that she was quite happy staying with us. She was appreciating the attention and the compassion, and she was very much treating us like parents. She'd never known her own parents really, except for when she was extremely young. And because we were feeding her, we were caring for her, we were spending time with her, she loved just to sit on my chest and I'd just pat her and just be close to her and feel close. And she just really enjoyed this, or just sitting in the crook of my arm, or with Pansatu quite often just cuddling up to her when she was sitting, or even as we were out and about in the garden or even inside the house, she'd sit on top of Pansa's head or she'd sit on our shoulders and just want to be close with us. And so her response to our compassion was to have a closer and more connected and deeper relationship with us. Even when we were inside, if the windows were closed, somehow she knew when I was sitting at my computer, and she'd come to the window up above me where I sit at my computer and peck on the glass. Even sometimes I'd be in the shower. She'd find me there. She'd be outside at the shower window pecking on the glass, wanting to come in. We had to put a screen on the kitchen window back there. It doesn't have glass on it, but we had to put a net screen on it to keep her out, because she became a little bit too accustomed to being inside. She's a bird, I kept telling her, come on, outside. The main reason being was, she'd disturb things, and, well, she's a bird. She would poop everywhere as well, and this became a little bit of a pain. PiiPii really appreciated our compassion so much that even when she could fly, she didn't fly away. We had anticipated that once she was confident and could fly freely, she'd be off with the other birds, but she didn't. She actually didn't fly a whole lot. If she was inside, she'd walk around the house. Sometimes she'd fly around, but quite often she'd be on the ground walking. And even outside, out here in the garden, she'd quite often be walking alongside us or just behind us, always close by. And when I'm working in the garden, if I was down doing some weeding, she'd be in there scratching and pecking and just being close by to us and enjoying our company. And this to us was an indication that she appreciated our attention, she appreciated our compassion, and was quite comfortable with us. And these days it's become a popular thing amongst organisations and businesses to have some social responsibility. And I think this is it's a good thing, but it doesn't actually replace compassion. Quite often it's done as a PR stunt, it's done for publicity because it's good for business. But compassion involves a real commitment and a real connection in relationship. I don't think that you can have compassion, real compassion for a bird or an animal or a person or anything without having some sort of connection that is heartfelt and has feeling. And quite often in this time that we live in, compassion has been replaced with this idea of social responsibility, and very frequently in the media we hear of people offering thoughts and prayers, which is a nice sentiment, but it lacks actual compassion because, as I said earlier, compassion is something that requires action. Compassion is a verb. And to be compassionate oftentimes requires us to change, to learn to do things differently, and to start by thinking differently and then doing things differently than maybe we have before. It's very easy to become indifferent and to turn a blind eye. There's so much going on in our lives that we're so busy, even in our daily lives, let alone all that's happening within the country that we live and in the world that we live at the moment. So it's really important to make a choice to be compassionate and to be considerate for others. I'm sure if we all spent a little bit more energy and time and thoughtfulness being compassionate and caring, we would live in quite a different world than we do at the moment. And the rewards of being compassionate are really unquantifiable. They're quite immeasurable. The pleasure and the joy that we had from having PiiPii in our lives was just overwhelming. It was so incredible. I'd never had such a connection with a bird before. I've always enjoyed having animals around, but never really had a bird so much. But this was really quite special. And sometimes she could be quite annoying at times when I was trying to concentrate or focus, especially if she was in the house. It was just like, oh, I had to shoo her out and get rid of her. I'd always come back to her and make sure that I gave her plenty of attention later on. But it was really an amazing thing, and really heartbreaking to find her up on the road one day. It looked like she'd been hit by a car or maybe a motorcycle. Somebody had put her off to the side up on a safe place, but when I found her, she had passed away already. So she was buried down in the garden under a mango tree. But we always enjoy the thoughts of her. She was in a lot of our videos, in our older videos. You'll see her quite often sitting on our shoulders or on our head, just being around us. She would even sometimes, when I went out to the store to grab something, riding the motorcycle, she would fly alongside me and dart around and swoop around. So she was just an absolute delight and gave so much to us that I could never have imagined that it would have been such an incredible, fun and caring and deep relationship to have with a pigeon. And so let me encourage you to start by giving yourself some compassion in your thoughts and in your daily actions. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself when you're thinking, particularly if you're learning to do something challenging or new. Think about what's in your mind and dealing with your thoughts in a positive way. And if you'd like to learn a little bit more about my take on having positive thoughts and managing your thought processes, please check out this video next. Thanks very much for watching.